The fill-in extravaganza continues at 98.5 The Sports Hub. Paul Perillo and Kendra Middleton in today on the program.
Beetle and Friends.
Beetle and Friends continues.
Holiday fill-in work. As Fred Kirsch likes to tell me, that's Paul Perillo time.
That's Perillo time. Perillo time. What's going on? You enjoyed the Bruins yesterday? Everyone fired up about the bees now?
I didn't really enjoy the Bruins yesterday. Not at all. Not at all. Thanks for asking.
I think yesterday is the type of day that should eventually lead to executives being dismissed. That's the kind of day that you look at and say, you were given a final opportunity to prove yourself. You instead proved that you have learned 0 lessons, and you are going to continue to build this team with a philosophy that has not worked. And they're continuing down this path of not standing for being an easy out or being perceived as being soft. They signed a lot of guys that are bottom half of your roster type of guys yesterday. This will not change the Bruins' future.
And this is what they don't get. You know, I feel like I'm in the minority. I don't think that when the Bruins, forget this past year when the Bruins just weren't good enough, but let's go back a couple of years ago when they get knocked out by Florida after the historic regular season. There's a lot of talk always about, well, they got to get tougher. They got to clear the front of the net. They can't score when it matters most. And that's why they fall short. They blame the goalie. They blame the toughness. They blame the fact that they don't have enough grit. All of these things are factors. You know, like the Ullmark Game 6 in that series, when I think he allowed 6 goals. You know, like they scored enough goals in that particular game to win when they lost that 6-5 game. But they fall short, Beetle, in my opinion, because they can't generate offense when it matters most. And these guys are not going to make you tougher to play against. Bottom 6 tough guys don't make you tougher to play against. The reason Florida's tough to play against is because they have gritty guys that have skill.
Yeah, right.
Kachuk and Bennett and Barkov, those guys can play both ends of the ice, and they can play any style you want, and they can score. The Bruins don't have that. Sticking, Jeannot on the fourth line is not going to allow you to compete with good teams. It's not. It's not going to make you hard to play against.
And I'm kind of curious, when you load up your roster with all these veterans, where you're finding playing time for these younger players that you allegedly are ready to develop or will need to develop for this next wave of the Bruins, the next core that you're trying to find within your franchise. Like, where's the playing time coming from now? You just signed all these veteran bruisers and scrappers, and what is this? What is this team going to be? What is the point of all this? Including deals for like Jeannot for 5 years.
Well,
5 years of
the one
that
really sticks out.
Are you kidding me with that?
Term. Yep.
5 years. You don't need that for 5 years.
The term of that Jordan Harris is exempt from all of this because he's a Northeastern guy, so that's a little different.
A local guy.
We like him.
A local guy. I mean, and
tremendous career for the Huskies.
That's a nothing deal. That's $825K.
No. You watch. He can play.
It's
fine. I'm telling you.
Fine. I'm more concerned with the forwards, though.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Loading up with all these forwards that are going to be, whether it's Corrali coming back or it's Jeannot or it's like, what is this? What should we expect this to look like in a way that's different and improved next season from what we just watched in the back half of this past season? How are you truly better? And I think Bruins fans don't know that answer. They don't know why the team would be better other than, we're going to be tough. We're going to be hard out. I'm not sure you are.
Like I said, I don't think it's all that hard to play against unskilled goons, if that's what you're looking to build. A guy with 7 goals.
Right.
I don't think it's all that hard to play against that. Now, Arvidsson, I don't know. Is there a chance that he could recapture some of his scoring touch? He's a guy who has had some success in the league offensively. But these other guys, Corrali, I mean, good, hard-nosed player on a really good team. But you're trying to rebuild. He's not going to help you. He's not going to help you in that regard. Right?
No, you're absolutely right. And so
Wow. Beatles never said that to me.
You're absolutely right about this. I don't know I don't know that there's much to go back and forth on about this day for them, because I think the opinions on it are near universal. This sucked. It did. It was a bad day for them. And I think they rushed into signing a bunch of players. It was almost panicky in how they reacted yesterday in making moves. I get it. They didn't go into it with the same resources as other teams. Did that mean they had to jump at everybody who they could get their hands on day one? Because there's nothing that they brought in that, again, I look at and say, oh, that's going to be an improvement for them. That's going to change.
Or they had to fight with 3 or 4 other teams to make sure they got that guy's services.
Yes.
Like, who was the guy that they had competition for? You're signing a guy to a 5-year deal. I'm not sure anybody else would have done that. I don't think one other team would have done that.
Which of the names did they bring in that another team said, damn, we missed out on him?
Jordan Harris. That's it.
I don't get why people are so upset by this, because the Bruins, of all the teams in town, they love the devil they know. And once someone shows you who they are, I say it all the time, listen, they've shown you that this is who they are. Why is everyone so surprised?
Because this is his last shot, we think.
And they keep changing. It's a little Red Sox.
Listen, Bruins fans want Don Sweeney fired already, right? You have that chorus of fans that go to their games and chant it in the stands to fire Don Sweeney. And so you would think that hitting rock bottom and moving on from all the players that they moved on at the deadline would be at least partially, if not a full philosophical sort of redirect, but just something there would set an alarm off for them to say, we got to do things a little different.
But they don't trust him.
We got to be a little bit better. We've got to mold this in a more creative way. We've got to make bigger moves that we maybe would not have considered a year ago. And nothing has changed. You're right.
Yeah, fans don't like him. You knew this was coming. You knew it wasn't going to be good. You don't like anything he does. You don't trust what he does. You knew that this is how it was going to go. You just didn't know who it was going to be.
But this is his last shot, and I'm sorry, this is the most important offseason he's had since his first offseason. And to me, this is going to be really hard to look at the end of this offseason and say, he did a good job. They're obviously building, but they have a track forward. They have a way of doing this that will give you some sign of hope. There are no signs of hope in what they did yesterday. None.
Not from yesterday. I totally agree. And, I mean, their only hope is that some of the guys that didn't play a lot for them last year, McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, those guys return to form, and you're obviously that much better defensively. But I agree with you, Peter. What they did yesterday isn't going to have a big impact on any improvement. I think Kendra brought up something that I agree with, but I would take it even to a different direction. You said they don't trust him. I think you were talking about the fans.
Yeah.
So I would definitely agree with that. I'm not sure that there's a trust with Neely and Sweeney in that relationship. I think Neely is the one that wants these goons, and he wants to get tougher, and he wants to
old school hockey.
He still thinks it's 1992
with your enforcer style,
and, with the power forward. And I heard Felger talking about this yesterday. And as much as I hate to say that I agreed with anything that he said, I do agree with that particular point. And Sweeney is a smaller puck-moving defenseman from back in the day, and is a little bit more offensive oriented. This to me looks like Neely won out with the style of player that they're bringing in. It's all these rugged guys that, are going to be tough in the corners, tough in front of the net, and, maybe get into a fight, which, great. It's not really much call for that in the modern NHL. I think that there's a lack of trust.
Good point about the Red Sox
office.
From you, though.
They keep changing.
It feels the same way as that there is no conversation being had at the top, and it's just continuing to screw them over.
So the message that Sweeney was asked for, what does this send? What is the message to everybody? And it was that we've tried to support them with infusing the energy and hopefully physicality and the ready-to-go mentality. How about skill? How about the ability to put the puck in the net? How about you say, at the end of one of these days, we got guys that we know can score. That's what we did. We got some real talented guys who can score.
Nope.
We want one of those days. That's what people are looking for. They also overrate their talent.
I'm silly that I was thinking
doing the
Mitch
things.
Marner. That's how silly I was like a month ago.
Yeah.
Brock Besser.
I'm thinking, what if they're in on one of these guys? In on them. 5 years for Tanner Jeannot.
I wonder if they even think they need that player. But to me, it's them, again, overrating what's already on their roster. They think they're better than what they are. They think some of their problems last year were what you mentioned, which is injuries and missing guys for a period of time. And they think they can just send the message to the guys they do have, let's say Pasternak, be better. That's kind of what they believe in.
Pastrnak can't be better. Pastrnak is a good player. He's an elite goal scorer. He can't, you're not getting more out of him. You're certainly not getting more out of Morgan Geekie than he gave you.
Oh, that they think sky's the limit for Geekie.
Okay,
I mean, listen, Geekie's fine. And he compliments Pastrnak nicely.
So this is my whole problem. And I read all the quotes that you just talked about, and I read them this morning, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, yes, this is the message you're sending, Don Sweeney, but is that the right one? Like, we want to be harder to play against.
They're going to say, listen, Pavel Zacha and Lindholm, they're just going to be better. You watch. We know they're better, which is why we have them here to begin with.
Elias Lindholm better be better? Because you can't be more invisible than he was for about 60 games last year.
I'm not sure he will be, but sure.
When I'm not going to pretend that I watched, sort of after the trade deadline purge, the roster purge.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend I watched 60 minutes of these games, last.
It's just background noise at that point.
Yeah, last March. But T-Bone, how many times did you see, they had no shots on goal in the second period?
Like every night?
Or they were getting outshot 18-3 with, 3 minutes to go in the second. That's not because you don't have enough toughness and grit that makes you tougher to play against. You're not good enough. You don't have enough skill to get the puck so you can generate some offense. That doesn't have anything to do with Tanner Jeannot didn't get into a fight in the second period to light a fire under somebody. You're not good enough to get the puck, possess it, and generate offense. But they don't seem to understand that. They think you have to get tougher.
I'll tell you what,
though.
Third and fourth lines for other teams. Woo! They're gonna have it tough playing against this bottom six here. Wow, that's where they're loading up. They're an infusion of third and fourth line players.
I just think it's I think it's a contradiction of philosophies. Elias Lindholm was supposed to be a good two-way center, right? But he wasn't going to give you toughness. Now this year it's like we're going to go 180 and just get a whole different type of player in free agency. And the irony to me is this is the year that you had some money to use. You could have gotten some talent. And you used it in small pieces. Admittedly, none of these are big money deals.
No.
But they're
Geekie got the biggest deal, right?
It's all just roster filler.